But there are levels of power in this league, and he doesn't have a lot of it right now, to be honest. So I think it's kind of common sense that he's got to defer at times to others in the organization. Now, if he turns into Bill Belichick, if he turns into Andy Reid, which is unlikely, he turns into Dick Vermeil, a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, the odds are always against that. But if he's a very successful coach, if he's in his 10th year instead of his second year, I think the Eagles are going about things a different way, because I think Nick would put his foot down and say, you know what, I hear you.
And a good Tuesday morning, football fans. We appreciate you streaming in here bright and early at the top of the show. And as of right now, you got Mac, John McMullen and Jody McDonald. That wasn't the case yesterday. Some weather gods, streaming technology gods got the best of yours truly yesterday. I had major internet issues, and I jumped in for like 10 seconds. Jody, you sound like a robot. Get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. But apparently, at least where I am these days, the internet is good. So I'm planning on being here the next 2 hours. John McMullen, and maybe you say you're looking at a major storm where you are?
It is coming down, Jody. End of days where I am. So it gave me a little bit of a hiccup right as I tried to get on this morning. Hopefully it's okay now.
We're both here to start the show. You got to stay tuned for the next 2 hours to find out if we can both stay with the show throughout. One of the beauties of doing what we do here on StreamYard and on the JAKIB Sports media channel. I'm sorry that I missed the show. Yes, I'm sure it's great. You, Ed Kratz, and Tone hopping in, and Xander hopping in. It takes about 4 or 5 people to replace me. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Bob Glauber, don't forget Bob. Bob was a big part of the show yesterday. I'm disappointed you missed Bob, because he's always fun.
So am I.
It takes Herculean efforts, and I had to play traffic cop to all that, Jody. So I'm glad to see you. I'm the happiest to see you.
My apologies for technical difficulty yesterday, but we got plenty to talk about today. And I want to start with the head coach, John. I saw the latest story you put up on JAKIBsports.com about Nick Sirianni and who he's leaning into here in year number 2 as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. We know the job he did last year, took over a 4-12 team, got them into the postseason, got them above 500, 9-7. Yeah. All right, fine, 9-8, but that last game doesn't count for me. I did a pretty darn good job off to a slow start. We've overanalyzed why they weren't good early and the change to the run. And was it the fact that they didn't put enough work in preseason, that they had to grow into the team they were going to become? Yeah, we can debate all of that. But the final analysis is they made it to the postseason in Nick Sirianni's first year. Not easy when you're coming off of 4-12. You got to go thumbs up. It has to be considered a successful year for Nick Sirianni. So now he's no longer a rookie head coach. Now he's a seasoned veteran of 1 year in the National Football League. And in the workouts they've been having during this offseason, he's had some interesting visitors. He has become friendly with some pretty darn good coaches, like a Dick Vermeil, who is, as you said in the story, Eagle coaching royalty, and Philly coaching royalty, Jay Wright, who's got some downtime because he's no longer coaching the Wildcats. So he's making it out to practice. He's having dinners with Nick Sirianni. How much is Sirianni actually learning and taking in from these very well-known coaches here in Philadelphia?
You know, I do think it's a lot, and they were helping him last year. You know, it's one of those things where when you come into the community, obviously, and Dick Vermeil has decided to make this his home, and obviously, despite his career arc, which is a strange one, to be honest, that will end in Canton this summer. All that time he took off and went into the television booth in college football, and then he came back and won a Super Bowl and sort of validated the Hall of Fame coach that he is. Everyone would joke it was always Philadelphia with Dick, and the big billboard on I-95, it never left. The insurance billboard, he was just, the people loved him here and he loved it here. And he's always stayed a close part of the Eagles organization in both retirements, I guess. But it's funny how and Nick probably doesn't want me saying this, but he is an actual huge Michigan basketball fan, Fab Five guy. Um, but he sort of turned into a Jay Wright fan when he got here. And obviously we know Jay's success, but I mean, he's just a student, and I'm talking about Nick. He's just a student of coaching and great coaches. And I kind of, point at this similarly toward Howie Roseman when he sort of went away to the exile to the business side of the organization, so to speak. And he took the opportunity to go visit R.C. Buford and Brian Cashman and Manchester United, whoever runs Manchester United, all these great GMs or organizational chiefs. Doesn't matter the sport, right? If you know how to team build, you know how to team build. Same thing with coaching. It doesn't matter the sport. If you know how to coach, it's about motivating. It's about teaching people more than X's and O's. And Nick is very in tune toward learning from everyone, whether it's Frank Reich in the NFL or it's Jay Wright in college basketball. In his mind, if you're a good coach, you're a good coach, and there's a reason, and he wants to figure out what the reason is. And I think that's a good thing.
I think it's a smart thing too. And if you're going to tap into other coaches, you might as well make them championship coaches like Dick Vermeil and Jay Wright. So he has access to guys who know what it's all about to win it all. The one thing that kind of surprises me is the way the Eagles are constructing their offseason this year, where less is more. I bet that neither Dick Vermeil or Jay Wright would believe that less is more, that sports science says you don't really want to practice because there are injury possibilities. I'm wondering how Nick is working through that dynamic with his coaching buddies.
I get a lot of pushback when I bring that up, Jody, because here's how I described it. And, I put this on JAKIB Sports. I put it on Sports Illustrated. JAKIBsports.com. Got to get the plug in. If it were up to Nick Sirianni, I think it's pretty clear they wouldn't be doing it the way they've been doing it. And there are stages you are in your career. Like, and this is how I compare it, because I think the decision starts, and I've said it pretty clearly on this show, and I've said it a number of times. This is a Ars Denoda decision, the Eagles' chief medical officer. This is his decision. Or I shouldn't say decision. I should say advice. This is his advice.
It should be a suggestion, not a decision.
Yes, should be his advice. Now, if he were in Foxborough, if he were in Kansas City, for instance, his advice would be the same. I don't think the result would be the same, because Bill Belichick and Andy Reid have more cachet. They're at where they are in their stage of their careers. Nick Sirianni is where he is, as you mentioned. He's coming into a second year, Jody. He was a rookie head coach. I think is successful rookie head coach, but there are levels of power in this league, and he doesn't have a lot of it right now, to be honest. So I think it's kind of common sense that he's got to defer at times to others in the organization. Now, if he turns into Bill Belichick, if he turns into Andy Reid, which is unlikely, if he turns into Dick Vermeil, a Hall of Fame coach, I mean, the odds are always against that. But if he's a very successful coach, if he's in his 10th year instead of his second year, I think the Eagles are going about things a different way, because I think Nick would put his foot down and say, you know what, I hear you, but we have to do this, and we have to get this done, and we have to get this done. That's my opinion. A lot of people disagree with it. We're going to have EJ Smith on in 9:20. We'll see what he says. We'll ask him that. I asked Ed Kratz yesterday. I didn't, and he leans towards he thinks Sirianni's really involved. Sirianni's on board. We've heard that from other people. I don't buy it. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't buy it for a second. I should have brought it up with Bob, but Bob's not here every day. He doesn't know the intricacies of the organization. He's more of a national guy, New York guy. Um, so, but we all say the same thing. We all say the same thing as writers and reporters. We've never met a football coach who didn't want to practice. We all say that. We all agree with that. And yet there's this sort of parting of the ways where some of us say, "No, I think Nick's on board." I'm not in that camp. I don't think Nick is on board. I'm going to be honest.
No, he's on board to the extent that they're not practicing as much as almost every other team in the National Football League. If he's being advised, if not demanded to not spend X amount of time on the football field, he's not giving any pushback. And he's going in front of the media and saying, this is the way we're doing it going forward. He's at least parroting the company line, so he has to be on board to that extent. So you should know, well, what's coming next here, Johnny Mack. A hypothetical question for you. Eagles go 12-5, win the division, win a playoff round. They're having their postseason get-together with all important individuals that is run by Howie Roseman, and Howie says, hey, we had a great season at 12-5. We need to do things exactly the same coming back again next year. Does Nick Sirianni have the gravitas to step up and go, yeah, we were 12-5. We won a playoff game. I thought we could have been 13-4 and we could have been in the NFC Championship game. One of the reasons why I don't think we made it there was because we didn't practice enough. We didn't put in enough time. We need to correct that going into the season. Can that happen in that all-important postseason meeting between the powers that be for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I think it will happen. And I think it's already happened, to be honest. Does he have the gravitas? I don't think so. That's still early in his career. One playoff win, I think Howie would then default to, no, that's the reason we got to where we got to. And it would still be that. I think we're talking about somewhere down the road, Super Bowl championship level, fourth year, fifth year.
So you think we're years away from him flexing his muscles enough to say, hey, I'm the head coach and we need to do it this way?
I think he already flexes those muscles.
No, he does. What do you mean he flexes? They practice less than every team except the Cincinnati Bengals, John. That's the only thing that matters is what's actually happening on the field.
Well, I don't. What I mean by flexing his muscles is I don't think he goes in there and says, okay, roll over me. I don't think he has that personality. I think there's a pushback. Jen Psaki just retired, the press secretary for the White House. Not retired, but moved on to the media. She didn't agree with everything she has to say up there. No freaking way. Never. Zero chance of that happening. But she's got to do it. She's got to spin it in the best way possible. Same thing with a head coach. I brought this up with Ed yesterday. I bring it up all the time to give an example. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl and scheduled to go to the White House, we know all the controversy because Donald Trump was still president. It ended up a bunch of players didn't want to go. Eagles had to shift things out. Poor Doug Peterson is up there as the voice of the organization. He had nothing to do with that stinking decision, but he had to go up and talk about it. And I wrote at the time, I said, that should have been Jeffrey Lurie. At the bare minimum, it should have been Howie Roseman. Doug Peterson, no, but that's part of the job. Unless you're in Howie's season, which is over now, where Howie will actually speak about the buildup of the roster and things like that. Then it's the head coach, man. He is the press secretary. He is the voice of the organization, and he's got to put the best spin possible. What I'm telling you, Jody, is behind the scenes that pushback is there, but he doesn't have the gravitas to succeed. Is what I'm trying to get across.
Fair enough. If you think behind closed doors, he's pushing back, but when push comes to shove, he's not going to push that hard because he is just a second-year coach. Okay, I get that. I'm talking about when he pushes back and he puts his foot down and says, no, listen, I'm the coach. You want me to coach a football team? Let me coach it the way I want to coach it. If not, yeah, okay, I'll up and get out of here. That's true pushback. That's putting your foot down.
Yeah, well, that's Doug Peterson level pushback. And the Eagles, by the way, Nick Sirianni knows that because he just succeeded a guy who won the Super Bowl, put his foot down, and is out the door. So, he knows it, his agent knows it. You have to put that in the equation as well. But as he gets more success, look, if he wins those 12 games, as you mentioned, a playoff game, he's still under contract. There's not much he can do, but I guarantee you this: it won't be Nick Sirianni pre-Eagles. He'll be a known commodity. He'll be a wanted commodity, and he will have more power to push back. So it's got. I've said it for a while. Put an asterisk on this. It's going to be interesting down the road because I don't think Nick Sirianni's completely on board now. There's always the chance I'm wrong as well, Jody. And if he does win 12 games, he might say, you know what, it is working. So what's the big deal? So there's always that avenue as well. But just from knowing the guy and just from getting to know him, he doesn't strike me as the guy who doesn't want to practice. It doesn't strike me as that.
He's a coach's coach, so I would think he wants to practice too. So yes, I think he's taking marching orders. All right, one more quickie before we punch up our first guest of the day. I ran this by Kevin Cooney last night on WIP. I don't have it in front of me off the top of my head. I think I remember. Eagles' first 4 games are at Detroit, home Vikings, at Washington, home Jacksonville against Doug Peterson. What are the Eagles going to be if after 4 games in? What do you think their record's going to be?
I think they're going to be 3-1 would be my best guess. I think anything less than that will be a big issue. People will be very upset. Obviously, if you only win 1 or something of that nature, it's a disaster. But I think this team is too young at certain positions, obviously the most important being quarterback, head coach, even as well, to be that consistent to go, okay, they're favored in all 4 of these games, which is probably going to happen. They're going to win all 4 of these games. That you got to be really consistent to go out and win in the NFL.
Right. So I think same way as you, 3-1. We do this all the time with the seasonal record. Are you a strong 3-1 or a weaker 3-1? If I told you they can't go 3-1, you have to either go up a game or go back a game. More likely 4-0 or more likely 2-2.
I'm going back early in the season. I'm going 2-2.
You'd go 2-2. All right. See, I would go 4-0. We're both at 3-1, but if you tell me 3-1 can't happen, I would say they win all 4 because I think you are correct. I've stated it too. They're going to be favored in all 4 games unless something really goes sideways for them and they get beat by Detroit and then beat by Minnesota and the Commanders are 2-0. In Washington, I guess they could be an underdog in that game.
Yeah.
I don't see them an underdog.
Slight chance they'll be an underdog in that game. I'm with you.
But I think they're going to be favored in all 4. So 4-0 more so than 2-2. If they get out 2-2, and I know this is a ridiculous question to ask because you need to be able to look at each individual game, but I'm asking you to project a little bit. How much are we going to be questioning the length of practice time that the Eagles put in if they get off to a 2-2 start? We know this past year they were 2-5. I lay it much more so on the opposition than I do the workout stuff that they put in. They had a tough early season schedule, and they had a much easier second half of the schedule and took advantage of it playing against third-string quarterbacks. But assuming relative health to the Eagles and the 4 teams they're playing, if this team is 2-2, how much are people questioning Howie Roseman, the doctors, the overall organization, and how much is Peterson going to have to fight that off, even though you and I both suggest it's not his idea to practice this little?
I think not much, to be honest, for this reason. I think people will forget the spring.
Not if they're watching Birds 365, they're not going to forget.
There's going to be certain people, I always say, I bring up Arce a lot. McLean brings up Arce a lot. There's going to be certain people that bring it up. But I don't think it's going to be a huge narrative because I think people will forget. They'll go through training camp. You'll have the first two games is sort of like the new preseason for everybody because of the scaled back training camps, but they're like a lot of people. Might be, if they have short practices, which they're probably going to have in training camp again, I think it'll be more focused on that than spring work is all I'm saying. Spring work is developmental work. It is what it is. It's not important. I think Zach Berman gave us the number 40, whatever you want to put the number at, the top 30, top 40 on the roster. It's not that big of a deal for them. To me, it's a bigger deal for the other guys, the other 50, the other 60, who you're trying to develop into players. Does it set you back down the road? I think that's a more valid question, a bigger question. And I think it's a possibility, to be honest.
We'll see when we get there. I can't wait for joint practice because then someone other than Arch Denote is going to declare and have say over how much the Eagles are actually doing as far as work goes. Because you got to kind of share the responsibility with the other team that you're practicing against. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We got through an entire segment with no technical difficulty. Yeah, let's hear it for us. Appreciate you streaming on in with us here on Birds 365. We're going to take our first time out, hoping to be joined by Ryan Watstein from WIP. We don't have him in the green room yet. We would have by now.
And EJ, Tone, if you're listening, EJ needs the link as well for 920. So, okay. So we'll see. We got to get people the links, Jody.
Make sure these two guys are linked up so they can link on in and stream on in with us here on Birds 365.